So this is the social impact session 2. We did a more, let's say, formal session yesterday, where we did some presentation about the social impact of NBS. And today we challenge our partners from these different projects, from URBiNAT, Clever Cities, and proGIreg. We also invited, of course, ediCitnet, but unfortunately, Ina had to leave. But we have already a very good group here. And the idea today is more to share some thoughts about what we have been doing in our project. So we challenge to have people from academia, as Isabel Ferreira and Igon, and people from the municipalities, as Laura, Alessandra, and Sandoval. Santiago, sorry, and Santiago. Sandoval, I fixed the Sandoval, sorry. And Santiago, and we have also Isabel Ruth as a stakeholder that was involved in Porto. You also heard Isabel Ruth in other moments. So it's quite a diversity of actors that play a role in this process of co-creation, and now we are going to focus today on the social impact of co-creating NBS. So I will ask, maybe I'll start with that side. I will ask you to present yourself. I did already this short introduction so that we understand this panel, but to tell us about your role in these social impact processes, so that we know a little bit more about yourself. We start with you. Yeah, maybe we started with you and then we go through the others.
Okay, so I'm Isabel. So I work in URBiNAT in this social impact from the perspective of the socio-politics dimension of nature-based solutions. We will continue after the end of URBiNAT. We will continue to do some action research on this topic of the social politics through a new project, the Translight Houses project, which is really its main focus, is the social politics dimension. So, and I work in URBiNAT in this dimension through a number of tools. Namely the catalog of nature-based solutions that we use, where we have social solidarity solutions and also participatory solutions, and also in the municipal roadmap that we have designed for the participatory process, in the sense of trying to enlarge or improve the dialogue between all the actors that are present in the living labs, trying to sort of expand the opportunities for a stronger dialogue between the political, technical, and civic dimensions of nature-based solutions.
I'm also Isabel. And I came from the Porto, and I've tried to be the best stakeholder during the session. So I'll try to exchange or to share with you my experience in URBiNAT. Okay.
I am Igone Garcia from Tecnalia. I work in Clever Cities project as the coordinator of the monitoring activities, trying to support the cities of Clever in defining, co-creating their monitoring strategy, and it has been a long journey to define KPIs and to make them translate them into metrics. And well, we have been quite involved in the terms of the social impact in creating with the collaboration of the cities a questionnaire to try to obtain some common items across the different Clever cities. And also we are producing now some fact sheets per challenge around monitoring to try to inspire another European cities in providing some kind of common understanding about what are the impacts of in social variables of the NBS interventions in the context of urban regeneration projects.
I'm Laura Ribotta from the city of Torino, and I work like a project manager in the city of Torino for the proGIreg project. So I tried to coordinate all our partners that were a lot, and so the co-creation started with partners because we had 2 universities, 2 different enterprises, 2 NGOs, and other third parties. So it was really a rich consortium in Torino, and also I tried to manage the conflicts that were there, because also engagement means discussing a lot for what we want to do.
I'm Alessandra Ayres. I'm an architect and a landscape architect. I work for the City Council since 25 years, and I'm working on NBS since 25 years, even when we didn't call them that way. Because as everybody knows, Torino was an industrial city, the Fiat city. So that means that when they stop making cars in the city, we have to think about a totally new town. And we were lucky enough to have the Olympic Games as our clue, so we transformed completely the former industrial sites in a different kind of place where it will be better to live, with a lot of green, with a lot of parks and gardens. And so working on this kind of project was a natural way to keep on with that work, and it's something that is so interesting, because checking what is done in the other country and trying to look the best practice to do the same in our city is the best thing.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Santiago Sandoval. I'm the Secretariat of the Environment Quito Council. We are rebuilding the city, as I say yesterday in another panels. And we are trying to be very close to the people and, co-creation the new public policies for environmental aspects, planning aspects, and social aspects. So we are just the new administration of Quito, so we have a lot of work to do, and we are linking right now Quito with the rest of the world, which is very important for us and for our people, in order to be, in the map of the planning and in the map of the NBS projects and in the map of the new environmental agenda.
Thank you. So we organized this in 2 moments mainly, 3 moments. One that we will approach more the research perspective. So we have 2 questions for the researchers that here are represented by Isabel and Igon, and then we have questions for the ones that are more related with the implementation of NBS in place. So the first question to you is, how did your project explore the social impact of NBS, considering the pre and the post implementation? So how did you do it? Maybe now we start with Igon, and then.
Yeah, well, it's a very relevant question. On one hand, when we are talking about social impact, we are just, it's very difficult to summary all the different items or topics that are behind this big umbrella about social impact, because we are talking about social cohesion, environmental justice, citizens' well-being, also perceived health. So there are a lot of items, and we try to summarize this in one specific concept, social impact, but it's like talking about environmental impacts. It's a lot of different variables that are integrated there. One thing that we identify from the beginning in Clever projects is that when you have to think about how to monitor NBS, you have to embed this monitoring strategy into the definition of the MBS per se. You cannot distinguish between defining the monitoring strategy and defining the final design of the MBS solutions. So both processes should be developed in parallel or simultaneously, and also with a lot of involvement of the local community and also the local expertise in the cities, because without having a robust local monitoring team, it's impossible to deliver any kind of impact, because they are going to measure the impacts. And then also we realized that it's very difficult to distinguish between the impact of the co-creation per se and the solution. You know, once you start to co-create a solution, then when you deliver the final solution and you have to achieve which are the final impact of this solution, the results in social impact are quite related with the process of co-creation. When you ask people about how they feel after developing an MBS in a specific area, they are answering not only about the implementation, but also about how much they were involved and how they were involved in the co-creation of the solution. So the much co-created the solution is, and the much you involve citizens in the definition of the monitoring strategy and involving them in the co-monitoring of the solution, the higher will be the impact in terms of social variables. And then from the long-term perspective, there is a lot of challenges that are related with maintaining a community engaged to continue the co-monitoring activities, because this community, this local community, will be really key for the maintenance of the solutions and to create an awareness about the MBS that probably will be maintained much more longer, in a longer period, than the duration of the project, and can create opportunities for the cities to replicate this kind of interventions and experiences in other places. So well, this is a little bit the summary of our lesson learned in terms of social impact.
So I think we have a close process in URBiNAT. Maybe I will highlight one or two different aspects. One is related in the co-diagnostic stage of the overall co-creation process, which is related with setting sort of a baseline, so from which we can measure the social impact. And from there, we tried to map what are the needs and ambitions as perceived by citizens and the local communities and the technicians from the municipalities. So we tried to do a number of activities, including interviews, face-to-face interviews, including informal conversations, including contacting local stakeholders, so that we try to somehow grasp what are the main, let's say, challenges and opportunities that the nature-based solutions can offer to that territory and the communities that live there. And so we started, let's say, by exploring this dimension of the social impact, trying to understand what is the baseline, so that then we could monitor if we are somehow adding something with URBiNAT. Another aspect, I think it's since the very early beginning that we designed the project, is related with the categories of nature-based solutions that we have. So it was specifically having different typologies of nature-based solutions was thought specifically to address the social impact of nature-based solutions. So it's much more easier to talk about environmental, ecological, urban, more broadly, impact. But we wanted to make clear that the solutions had to address at the same time environmental but also social challenges. And in that sense, we decided to have these 4 typologies, including the territorial solutions and the technological solutions that are the more usual typology of nature-based solutions. But we had to that social and solidarity solutions and also participatory solutions. So trying to, whenever we are speaking about solutions in the living labs, we are already distinguishing and making clear that we want to address at the same time the material dimension of the territory and also the immaterial dimension. So this was a strategic, let's say, a strategic way that we found to explore the social impact of nature-based solutions. And then throughout the implementation or throughout the other stages of the co-creation process, one thing I think it was really, really important, and I think you mentioned something very close to that too, is regarding the ongoing work within the living labs, within the working groups. I think there was a sort of an more or less informal, continuous, ongoing monitoring of the social impact of nature. It was always part of the reflection, but I will leave that for you to explore and to confirm if I'm saying it really happened.
Yeah, I will see.
This is one aspect, and of course, it is also a continuous reflection that we have to do. So we never take it for granted that we were addressing social impact. We review it over and over, either our approach, our communication within the living labs, but also the type of solutions that were being developed. We as researchers, also with the local task forces that were composed by researchers and the municipal technicians, we were always trying to understand the complementarities with other projects that were ongoing in the intervention areas, and the, let's say, the social interest and fairness of what we were developing together with the citizens and local organizations and technicians within the living labs.
Thank you. So we have one last question for you before we go to the other colleagues in the table, related to the methodologies that you use to measure the social impact. Although you already address it a little bit, but maybe you can be a little bit more shorter and direct. What are the methodologies that you proposed in your projects?
Well, in Clever project, we use different, well, the cities use different methodologies. On one hand, we have observations, we have also interviews and questionnaires for the social impact, for measuring. A lot of challenges raised here due to the languages, the sample that you need to make to obtain data that has robustness enough to deliver impact, and also how to distinguish between the impact of the intervention and perhaps other interventions that are going to be also all around the neighborhood, because when you ask people, it's very difficult to distinguish about one thing or the other. So this is a topic that really appears. I think it's relatively important for all the cities and the projects across Europe to define some framework for measuring the social impact of NBS. To provide the cities some references that can be applied and customized, considering the local needs and specificities, but it's quite relevant to provide some kind of frameworks. I know that our 3 sister projects has applied different questionnaires, and probably a lot of lessons learned could appear to try to offer learnings for the European framework in the monitoring scheme of NBS, because I think it's quite relevant to use common tools to produce a lot of results about impact assessment and knowing exactly what we can expect when we implement and co-create a solution. Because it's quite important to inform our citizens, to aware our politicians about the positive impact of MBS in comparison with another traditional solutions. And I think the social variables has been one of the pending activities from the scientific point of view in terms of what the MBS can really deliver. So, well, yeah, this is our main reflection regarding methodologies.
I mentioned already the ongoing and more, let's say, informal way of doing this, to measure the social impact. But there are, of course, also a continuous monitoring and assessment process, more formal and more a research conducted process. We used a qualitative approach to the assessment of the social impact, where we included in-depth interviews, participating observation, and focus group. We did this in different stages of the process. And I will talk more specifically what we are doing right now regarding the social-political dimensions of nature-based solutions. So at this stage, we are developing with the 3 front-runner cities focus groups that aim to discuss how the different actors, so the researchers that supported the local activities, the municipal technicians, the citizens and local stakeholders, I mentioned all, and the municipal technicians, I think I said it already. So the 4 typologies, how do they perceive the impact of the project in their practices of co-creation and co-governance, and how do they perceive that this the whatever that has been learned during the co-creation process, how it can support the social development of those territories. So do they feel that the participatory process, that the co-creation process, that the approach that we tried to introduce or reinforce, depending on the cases, of collaborative governance, of a more collaborative dialogue and a more doing together approach within the living labs, if this has, in fact, if they feel that this has an impact in the social impact, in the other dimensions of social impact. So if having, opening all these opportunities to everyone express what they feel as need and ambitions for the territory, has really was a real opportunity to these needs and ambitions to be expressed and explored and advanced somehow.
Okay, thank you very much, Isabel. So now we are going to address the cities. We have also 2 questions to the cities, and it's good because we have the people representing the 3 categories that Isabel mentioned: citizen and stakeholder, the municipal technician, and an elected representative that is Santiago. So maybe we start with Isabel Ruth, and then we go to Laura, Alessandra, and Santiago. And the first question is, how did your city implement it? How did your city implement this process? Give one example and identify one lesson learned for the NBS that you would like to talk about. So this will be the first round.
Okay, thank you for your question. I can speak more about a special and precise NBS that I get more involved on. And it is the market, the social solidarity market as an NBS for try to solve several things. The first of it, it will be about rethinking, okay, the consume. It was for us it was a social need to rethink the way how we consume, and also it wants to address the involvement of people in their own process of approach or get new opportunities approaching the market. So it will be a way of giving the opportunity to get people more involved in their own change process. It also was about empowering, of course, and get the community more able to decide about what they want and how they want things be done on that territory. And also the market as a opportunity to engage young children and not so young children as an education place to exchange things, to again think about consume and also make decisions or think about decisions about upcycling, recycling, eating, also about eating, because we have a special part in the market. It is about food and sustainable food. So I liked very much to hear about that project about eating cities or eatable cities or something like that. Not eatable, I think. But okay. So the market was not a place. What I want to say is the market is not a place to commerce, only to make commerce. It is a way of getting everything, all these things discussed, think about for everyone that participate there. You said something about a consortium. I think it was you that said about something manage and run and be part of a consortium. And I thought about this, and this consortium that make the market appear and be having roles and discuss what are the main aims. This consortium was a real consortium. It was a open debate consortium. You know, I learned a lot about trees. I didn't know nothing, and I learned it with Nuno. That is maybe the person that has less education degree in the group, but he has this knowledge, and I use it as an example of a real consortium. There's a place where you debate, you hear people, and you have the courage to discuss what you know and what you don't know, but you want to learn about it. I work in a social projects, and I think in social projects, and we're talking about social impact, we should be very much concerned about getting the right KPIs to social impact. But we still, other thing that I've learned, it was, I think there's a lot of, you are much more forward in this consortium and co-creation that we should be in social, that we are in social projects. And I think I learn a lot about co-creation, and I'll bring this to my practice also, because in social we need to co-create, really, we need, and we are not co-creating, at least in Portugal, we're not co-creating enough. So the market is this experience, and you want to know how the social impact is measured there. We try each time we do the market, and we do it monthly, we try to get to the consortium again, to the group, the working group, and try to debate, discuss what went well and what was wrong, what we can improve. And that's a way of getting some measuring of the improvements. And also we have a questionnaire that we made in the group to have the, you know, to have the opinions of people that participate there. So it gives us some feedback and give us some, you know, leading ways of doing the next one and doing better. I think it's enough.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. So let's move now to Torino. Turin, please, Laura. Yeah.
Thank you. We implemented 7 MBS, and not all these 7 MBS were supposed to be a big impact on a big social impact. I think the first one for social impact was vegetable gardens, and we did it in a lot of way, because we worked with school with the gardening boxes, or we did little garden in little boxes with the pre-primary school, or we had a big area that now is called Orti Generali. It was 3 hectares at the beginning of the project, and now it is expanded to 5. So it's also a result of this process. And at the beginning of the project, we helped them to develop this idea that was the idea of 2 guys that made the master thesis about this project. And so we had them in the proGIreg consortium, and we helped to start it. And they started with 160 vegetable garden. They started the works in 2019 in January. In June, they rented all the gardens. And now they have a waiting list of 500 people that want to do the gardens there, because they built really a great community that is not only a community of urban gardeners, but it's also a community of citizens that want to go there because it's an open park. So you can have there the urban garden, but you can go, like me, only to relax yourself or to take a coffee, because they opened also a bar and restaurant, and they are working about food and circular economy with another project, Fusilli, with us. And so I think they had the more important social impact in general, and the numbers say that. And we did also a questionnaire, a specific questionnaire for Orti Generali there. And in those days when I'm here to speak with you, they write to me, we had to bring up this social impact monitoring. You have to be in contact with the University of Torino. We have to go ahead on this. Another MBS we did about that had a real social impact was about a citizen science project about butterflies. In this type of project, the University of Torino worked a lot with the health center in the city, and so 10 people with mental illness became citizen scientists and went into the schools and in public events to talk with people about butterflies and the importance of butterflies. And the most important things I experienced in this type of MBS, it was to be there with all the children of a school and so on. And there were a lot of adults that were explaining the butterflies. They were educators, they were scientists of the university, and there were those people with vulnerable people. And the children doesn't know who is who. They are all together the same. And we had reports about the life of those people, those citizen scientists during these 5 years. And we know that also their pathway through the mental illness was easily because of this project. We have no quantitative data, so for the university maybe it's a problem, but we have this description from them, directly from them, and also the medication were less. So, yeah, we can we can maybe understand better with scientists how to monitor better these things. But for example, now they are doing a movie about their life and their experience about this project.
So they are creating their own measure tools that are much more interesting than percentages in a questionnaire. Yeah. I don't know if you want to complement.
Yes, of course. We're talking about that now. Just there are some things that you cannot measure. You cannot measure in number. You cannot measure in degree or whatever. But you can measure in feelings. You know, sometimes it's even much better. Maybe it's a sensation, and you know that is the right one. So we have to keep on this kind of things. We have two other examples that are quite in the same line, that are the green walls, and we decided just before COVID, of course, to do that in a homeless dormitory and in a school with two different. At the beginning, we chose that because of technology, because we wanted to try the technology in indoor and outdoor, so to measure the difference between two different kind of course, plants, the kind of plants and everything, because it was totally different outside and inside. But then we also choose that because the school is so important, because they are children, as everybody told. And so if you start from them when they are young, that means that probably they will grow up with a better think about the world, about a different way of thinking that maybe their parents and their grandparents, they don't have, and it's much harder to talk with them. And it's also a very good media because they can talk to their parents and grandparents, and this message can go on different ages. And the other one was the dormitory, because of course that was a very ugly, I can say, building, just built to stay for one season, and is there since 20 years. So you can imagine how bad is it. And is an asphalt floor, so there is no nature at all in that place. And there were some trees in the past, and the city, not us, of course, but the city decided to cut them because the trees were ruining the asphalt. So you can imagine that this is not really NBS, because we should think about the opposite. It's the asphalt that ruined the trees, not the trees that ruin the asphalt. And that's why we have to change minds before changing technologies. And so we decided to do the green wall there because we wanted to do something different. We wanted to feel that place, that is a place where people that doesn't have any place to sleep, they go when it's very cold, when it's very warm, where they have problems, of course. They're not obliged to go, but they can go freely whenever they need it. And so we did that, and that probably was the only good things in COVID. Maybe you are surprised by this, but because at the beginning this dormitory is used only by night normally, because they get there when it's night and they must go away in the morning, so from 8 to 8. When there was COVID, of course, they were obliged to stay there, so they had to stay there 24 hours a day. And having a place that was much more comfortable, at least to see, was totally different. So they were living in a place that were not so ugly anymore, and even the people passing through, that they later on, of course, during COVID, they couldn't pass in front of it. But later on, they show some interest to that building that they didn't show before, because before it was just an ugly big building. I don't want to see it. Later on, it becomes something that was interesting. So what are you doing there? Why you did that green wall over there? So there was an interest on the neighborhood. And of course, that was changing the point of view about that building in the neighborhood. That is a social impact indeed. And the same was for people stay inside, because they start with some vegetables cultivation in some neglected boxes that were outside. Nobody in the past 20 years had never cultivated tomatoes or whatever in that boxes. And when we did the green walls, they started. So that was really, that of course is not so easy to ask them their feeling and whatever, because you know there are people that have some problems in their life. But anyway, the one which we could talk, because of course there are people that are much more open and the other that are not so, they felt the difference in this.
Thank you, Alessandra. So let's move now to other contexts, maybe other challenges. Santiago, can you tell us the experience in Quito?
Yeah, for sure. It's for us it's a little bit funny to talk about natural basis solutions and trying to measure that. You know, it's about how the people feeling, how's the people thinking, and how the people acknowledge something to resolve the environmental issues in our context. So just the people let it do it, how they understand the environmental context in their population, in their community. So for us, the best measure, the way to measure the NBS and all of the ecological systems is just letting people do it, and working with that kind of perspective and methodologies that they already have. However, we as a council, of course, we have the closely relationship with the people. So we are in direct. We did a lot direct interviews with the communities and continuous meetings, because sometimes the municipality is just doing once and twice, but they already forgot other people. So sometimes the stakeholders just doing taking something and then just let it go to the rest of the community. Attendance at community meetings is very important for us, because people feeling when the authorities or the stakeholders are close to them. So that is very, very a big issue in our context. People feel more important in that decision. So the ways is improving a lot to match to better this, decisions to implement. The coordination with local governments for us, and I think is the key of NBS in our context, because if we're going just for as a Secretariat of the Environment, I already forgot the Secretariat of Security or the Habitat or Housing or Health. So I think for to get a big results, we need to go together as a municipality with one goals ahead. So and the last one I think is the gratitude and the continued contribution with the people. You know, people sometimes is waiting for something to save the territory, something to save, or someone to save, or the public service, their own lives. So the gratitude from the municipality is very important to break up the relationship between authority and people. So that is the only way to be very close and feel like I am a citizen as well. So that is a very, very good example to, you know, to break up that kind of, how can I say, authority lines or authority planning. The last 10 years, Quito was like building with that kind of ideologies from the top to the bottom and from the authority to the people. So if we just broke up that in 4 months, we have a very good results. And we, of course, we trying to connect to the next projects for the next 4 years or probably for the next 15, 20 years which will be very sustainable for the city, for the community, for the citizens, and of course for another cities. They want to copy, you know, a kind of methodologies of models. Well, and how did city implements NBS? First of all, I think is recognizing Quito's characteristics, natural characteristics. We are not copying models from the other countries and from another kind of part of the world. You know, the global north is another context, global south is completely another context. So this is the first thing that we did in the last times, and preventing the climate change, investing in prevention. See, investing. We are not believing that climate change is a natural issue. We believe it's anthropogenic issues. So if we're investing in housing on the risk, on the side of the rivers, on the side of the ravines, of course we need to move on to the next steps for to think about NBS in that kind of neighborhoods. And the third one is, of course, green and blue infrastructure. We have a biodiversity, a biosphere inside of the district, Quito Distrito metropolitan area. Is 80% of our territory is under biodiversity reserve. So we need to think in that kind of dynamics. So NBS could be implemented in that kind of dynamics. So we are not investing in great infrastructure in these areas, but of course we need great infrastructure in the urban areas. But you know, we could find mix about that kind of solutions, and of course those two kinds of you know, mixes of solutions. And finally, the policy instruments, which is very, very important for us because we didn't have before. So the blue-green ordinance for us is the only framework to look ahead and to thinking about Quito's future.
Very well, thank you, Santiago. It's very important that you are in this panel. Thank you for bringing this perspective and from your country, and for the work that you are doing in municipality. That in some way is related with the second question that we have, that is how the social impact is promoting the co-creation and governance of NBS in the city. So you already approached this a little bit. Maybe now we can start. Maybe we start with Santiago, because you are a little bit on this mode, and then we go through the others. Yeah, it's the relation with the social impact, promoting the co-creation and governance of NBS.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit about what you already mentioned, how you develop governance structures to co-create, to have the space for co-creation, to create the space for co-creation. I'm repeating.
Yeah. Okay, Quito in our administration is engaged in promoting co-creation and co-governance, which is very important. Governance, if you don't have leaderships, you don't have a good governance in our territory. So leadership doesn't mean that you will take the decisions for them. So you are very important part of that kind of governance. So if that governance is working, of course the political decisions and the indicators are working. So citizen commitment and empowerment of the people it's the key for us to know that the people have the power in that kind of in governments and in that kind of decision makers. It's helpfully for us recognizing citizens' commitment and two ways to rebuild that kind of public policy and private and public strategies. And the second one is the encouraging the participation. We have a lot of information, you know, in the last years have been, the city has been invested in information, in guidelines, in documents, but any of them are implemented. So the information has been in the hands of the people to, of course, to put it on the voices of them in the projects and in the programs. So I think is the ways that we are doing right now.
Thank you very much. So we are also approaching the final, the end of the, we have still 30 minutes, so we need to go a little bit more direct to the topics. So how did it happen in Torino? Are you also creating this co-governance environment to co-create NBS? There was some experimentation on that?
Yes, we were talking about which was the right answer. But probably is the one that in the last years, after we started with this kind of pilot and NBS project, European project, we did a lot of things about the governance as the resilience plan and the Covenant of Mayor, because we are part of it, as 100 City as well. I don't know exactly the name of how it's called.
For 100 City
for climate,
for the climate neutrality.
Climate
We are in
neutrality.
the mission also of one.
So that means that the city decided to be in all this kind of program, did some rules as the resilience plan, the green infrastructure plan was in 2020, 2022. So it is different measure that we have to keep on with this kind of things. Everybody should go in that direction. Anyway, because I also have to say what's wrong. That is always something that we should talk about. Is not always the only way to do it, because it's not enough to do rules, to call it, this is the rules, everybody should apply, because it's not so normal that everybody apply, even if there is a rule, if there is a clue that is 100 city for climate reduction and this kind of things. Because as we told many times in these 2 days, everybody should and in the meeting before they say you don't have to teach how to do something, but why to do something. And now I keep that the sentences for the next months, because it is really that way. You have to convince everybody, all the different part of the city, because the city and the city of Torino is like many other cities that we met in these days. Is so big, has so different kind of office, so different departments, and not everybody is thinking about why we have to do that. That is the most important thing. So we have plans, there are a lot of them, but then we have to think about the future, and this is the only way.
Thank you. Shall we move now to Porto, so that we and just to remember that before we give the word to you, that the next question will be made not by me, but by one of you. So you have to choose one of the others that you want to put a question.
Do we have a secret paper?
No. That comes from. That's not controlled by us. It's it's a co-creation moment. So you can. So we'll have space for 2 or 3 questions, and then we also would like to hear Isra probably. But let's finalize this round with Isabel and Porto.
I'm trying to
How do you see the
very
co-governance
brief
model in Porto?
Yeah. We fight a lot, and not also with you, of course, but only to pick something that Santiago said about the relation between government or municipality and citizens. I think we must think in this co-creation process like a three-part process or three-part intervenience that are main intervenience, and they are crucial to get a good NBS. And from my experience, people from researchers, from academy, from the university, they are crucial to get us on the, on the concrete, objective path. Okay. Sometimes we go around and we discuss a lot, and everyone have brilliant ideas, but we need this look from outside, inside, and to give us the guiding path. And we need the decisions. We need the political decisions, and we need them real involved. Okay. You cannot, that's why we fight a lot in Porto, because it's very important to find the key persons inside the municipality. And I see you too very involved in this process, and in Porto we also have this lucky way of dealing with municipality, because they're professionals more than politics. I'm sorry, Santiago, but more professionals that work a lot and want to think about these problems and these solutions, okay, and are available to do it. So the good way of doing this is with this kind of, and of course the citizens. And in these citizens I include the ONGs, other projects in the territory, and so this is it's a stage where this kind of three group of actors have the same time, the same focus, the same light, brilliant light, and that's the way to do it. We also how do we do it? How do you propose to a political, like you, Santiago? You seem very nice, so it will be very easy to talk to you about the needs and solutions. But some of them, they're not very, very available to discuss. And how we do it? The proposal was to have the, we have these working groups that are meeting in a very regular basis. I think from 2 and 2 months we meet, we work together, we co-create there, and each 3 or 5 months, I'm not sure now, I'm sorry, I should get it on calendar, but I'm not sure, we get to these meetings the politicals. And we make a big commission, okay, where the politicals goes around like, world cafes, and here each group solutions and problems and things to go next, okay? And the first time we did it, it was a disaster. It was a complete, I can say this, can I? Because it's true, it was a disaster, because we were so nervous. People that are going to present the idea were like in a real stage, and the politicals sit there, and it was, a bad acting for everyone, a bad experience. And then, so we rephrased the way of doing. We discuss it a lot, big fights again, big discussions, and we rearrange this way of involving and put people on the same table and put people really listening the proposals, and not only be, on laptop or on phone. So, what I meant is, you have to fight. All the solutions have different paces, and you have to be resilient in this co-governance. And and something that I didn't say before, but I have to say it now. I learned a big thing, that was when people go to action, things happen, really. They happen. It's so simple. Yeah, it's so simple, and I think we keep forgetting something so simple, that people need to go. They want to go to action. They get together, and even when researchers or investigators or politicals are not prepared to go to action, if we want, we can do things. Things can happen. So that's a very positive thing that I've learned. And it's, I think, a very optimist, way of looking to the things, but that's the way I am.
Thank you. We need some optimism also. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so let's go now to these more informal moments. So we will we'll give the space for a question from your side to the others, and also from the public to you. So who wants to start? Isabel? Isabel, good. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Torino. Okay, because it seems that you have the persistence to do things, and one of the things that we had more difficult, it was on not in the engagement of people, but the maintenance of this engagement. How you keep people connected with the solution, because sometimes solution takes a long time to get seed, to grow and to be seen. Okay, how do you do it?
Yeah,
we give a good lunches to people. We give people great eating is. Food.
Yeah. Food is a solution. It's for that we did another project about food in the same district, and so not for all our actions we had the same results and success in the maintenance. In particular, it's a problem. But when you can find a foster parent for your action. And so when you have a community that can take this action as a son and go ahead, the maintenance problem is solved. So for example, in Orti Generali, from the beginning, this association that now became an social enterprise, so also they did this change. They had this idea, and they felt this project like a son from the beginning. And another example is a courtyard that we opened. It's a courtyard in a place owned by the city. There is an old building to refurbish that we had not the solution for now for that building, but we started to use the big courtyard with one of our partners, Fondazione Mirafiori, that was a key partner for it was your your copy in Torino. And at the beginning they were not so involved in the use of this courtyard, but when we signed the first pact of collaboration, that was our administrative way to use that place. So it's free of charge for them, but they have to maintain this place. And now they asked to renovate this agreement, and they feel this place like an extension of their place. So they are using it like their house where they are, and they feel like something there. So from the beginning, I was the person who insists to go there and to do something. Now they are the... So
she was the person with the keys. She was there to open the door, close the door.
Now they have the key.
Everything.
Yeah. I did everything there, also on Sunday and Saturday. But now they are in charge of that place. So in other MBS was not so successful. So it depends also because of the community, because of the people, because it seems the key partners way of doing it. Yeah. This Fondazione, that is a hub of association of the district, was the good choice from the beginning. Yeah.
I think she has a question.
Give the floor. Do you want to do, or you want to do? Yeah. Okay. Great.
Well, I think NBS are very important methodologies. But do you think we need to talk about post-growth economies in our societies? Do you think it's the way, or it's another kind of balance that we can find, solutions for a better society? Whoever you want.
Yeah, it's a very challenging topic. I think you're referring to, or at least including the degrowth challenge. I think when Isabel mentioned this aspect of rethinking the consuming practices, it is directly related with degrowth. How can we do better consuming less, something like that. So I'll give it to you.
No, please. No.
Because I think that was your approach, and I think let's reply together. But I think from an overall perspective, I said at the beginning that we had a catalog of solutions. And these solutions were used as inspirational solutions because, in fact, most of the solutions, I didn't explain this well, most of the solutions that were developed as proposals and are now being implemented were created there in the living labs within the working groups. And naturally, they had this in Porto very clearly, this very intention of not only being inspired, respecting nature, but how can we think in development from a different perspective, and even a lot of discussions on what is the economic development. So what is the development, economic development for these communities, and how can we find solutions that are aligned with the need of a degrowth approach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only can add something else, that sometimes not only all community is involved and has the same alignment, okay, or the same needs in the same time. But you have to identify the people that can start an alignment and can grow some thoughts about nature, about sustainability. I cannot say this word. You know, we can do it in Latin, this panel. I realize now, why are we using, maybe on the room, also people know Latin. Sorry, because it's so difficult. Well, but you have to identify these people, these key partners, that could be individual partners, and they share something, some vision for that place, okay? And those partners should be open to learn with the other community. And that's how things grow, I think. Is that an answer? Can I ask something to her? I love your idea of framework. Okay, framework for having social impact measure and how a common language about it. But why people don't advance more on this kind of things? all of us do some qualitative measurement, but why we are so afraid of quantitative measure? You know the teoria da mudança, changing theory? It's so complex. It's a good way of doing it, but it's so complex. Can we do something else? Can we do framework more easier? No?
Because that was my question.
Oh, sorry.
To me also is very challenging question. When I think that well, the efforts on trying to create a common framework are already there, but for sure it takes a lot of time. And also something that came into my mind, because I came much more from the environmental expertise point of view, and I'm going to put a very easy, understandable example, is when you try to measure temperature. You know, temperature is a very well and robust way of measuring. And then when you try to put into context the measures of temperature across different cities and countries, you realize that finally they are not comparable. Why? Because the sensors are put in different places, because sometimes the information is not meaningful, and you have series of data, like 30 years of data, and sometimes you cannot compare information. So when you talk about social, this became much more challenging. But I really think that we must, the scientific community should put a very big effort in trying to quantify what we are calling qualitative. Because finally percentage, numbers could be interesting. As interesting as the stories, the small stories behind all the things that you have been showing and telling us. But why numbers are so important? Translating social impact into numbers, because finally investors and policymakers would like to know what is the return of their investment. And the return of the investment, unfortunately, deals with money, with earning money, and with reducing, for instance, the cost of, for instance, mental illness and that kind of thing. So our effort is trying to provide common frameworks to try to make a more holistic and systematic way of measuring this. And we, for sure, we will have to combine a robust framework with these small but really relevant narratives and stories that you have been telling to us today. Yeah. And I have a question for all of you, for the one that want to answer. That is about how you have managed the expectations of the local stakeholders about the interventions. I mean, the societal challenges that we are facing as cities has to do a lot with regeneration of places, with poor, with employees, with economy. And sometimes the expectations you have in the local stakeholders about the things that you are going to do in the neighborhood are not balanced with the realistic possibilities of these solutions to deliver this kind of positive impact in these challenges. And I want to know how you have deal with these expectations.
Controlling all the answers.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I will mention one aspect of it, which is, I think we tried, you confirm if this is, if what we tried was effective. Yeah. Okay. We tried to explain what kind of funding we had, where it came from. Yes. We had a co-creation process that we wanted to do in that territory, but it had specific boundaries. We had the kind of solutions that we could fund had, of course, budget limits, and had it couldn't be any kind of solution related with any kind of need or ambition. It had to be and we were quite flexible, even so. I think we had to justify to the funders that these solutions were directly contributing to the framework of the nature-based solutions. Okay, well,
can I complement something? Isabel pointed something very important, that is the transparency. You know, you have to tell everything to people. You cannot keep some cards away or hide. You have to be clear about it. And also URBiNAT made something real, from my point of view, real intelligent. That was, there's will be something material there on the territory. They invested a lot of money on building a new corridor. Okay, the corridor is a pathway that people need it and use it, but it will be improved. So that's a way of, you know, prove people that something is going to change, is going to happen. And of course, as you get along in the project, you have new ideas and you want to present some new solutions or add something more that will cost something more. So I think all the time we are dealing with expectations, but we have to talk about them and be transparent about it. And I think in that way we can manage better the expectations. Even so, there's some people always frustrated, you know.
I think very quickly. I think numbers are very important in order to measure the quantity, but sometimes we are forgetting the quality of life. So, for example, GDP, I think, is very expired right now in order to measure the good living. So I think the happiness, exactly. So to shift to that kind of measure, probably the numbers could be help us to take another kind of decisions in order to live in a different ways and in a different balance, or to understand the next step of the movement, the social movements, or the new things of rethinking the planet. So of course numbers are good, but I think we are forgetting something.
Thank you. Let's hear the question of Isra, and then maybe you can ask. You can mix both questions.
They have something that
they will answer. But
okay.
They will find also your question.
Yeah, it's too gone. It's more on social monitoring, because we had a lot of exchanges on the social monitoring within the nature-based solutions that we had in Clever. So I understand what you're saying when you're trying to say that we need to do indicators that measure quantitatively the qualitative indicators. There are proxies, and if we introduce proxies to the systems, we made monitoring more complicated than it should be. So yesterday in our session, we were actually discussing between proGIreg and Clever Cities in Milan how we need to simplify the monitoring, how to make sure that we are using less technical language than we scientists have this jargon that we want to use eventually. So I understand of the need to demonstrate in more numbers, in more percentages, the value of qualitative qualitative output, the qualitative impact that we have from nature-based solutions. But at the same time, sometimes it's impossible to, from a, let's say, scientist point of view, I will have to put the hat now, to put a framework that is comparing apples and oranges. We had this problem in Clever Cities that we couldn't compare the same indicators, exactly the same questions in Milan, London, and Hamburg. We didn't have the same spatial context. We didn't have the same preparedness to the interventions of nature-based solutions. Some nature-based solutions were large-scale that, such as the case we had in Giambellino, that is not even compared to a schoolyard that is in Hamburg. While we have the same impact, we are creating better quality of life for people. So it's not a question, but rather a reflection. Do you think it's better if we try to standardize a framework, to set a methodological framework that could work? Or even it's better if we take it the other way and try to convince the Commission and try to convince the policymakers that we cannot compare. We better have place-based approaches as we use living lab concepts, so we need to have place-based monitoring based on that. We cannot compare the impact that Clever Cities did compared to URBiNAT. While we are sister projects, we are doing the same exact things. We're implementing nature-based solutions in socially contexted places that they have problems with the co-creation, and they have the same exact problems, poor people and so on. So do you think, what should we do? Because now we are writing in Task Force 6, we need to convince the Commission to, okay, so co-creation should be done this way, but at the same time you need to monitor what you're saying. And then, second point, because you said that in the beginning.
We are already in red,
no.
red zone already.
Okay, you mentioned something in the beginning about the monitoring of the co-creation process itself that then interferes with the monitoring of the social impacts. I do agree with that, but in part you are monitoring a process that has an institutional constitution of its own, so you're monitoring a co-governance process, which is more Isabel question. And then on the other side, you're monitoring social added values from nature-based solutions. They could be working together as two concepts, but they interfere, but still they should be separated in the projects because they are totally two different impacts when you're coming to write down, did you increase your shared governance or did you create more social impact because of this? This is something, this is another thing. So this is, that's it. Gonzalo.
Okay.
I will start.
After this 5-minute question, so we will give
one question, 1 minute to answer. No problem. I will start with the second part. I fully agree with your statement. I think there are totally different methodologies and the influence of one in the other is also clear. My only reflection about this is that I think that for the definition of what is a nature-based solution, I'm going to propose to the Commission including the co-creation of the solution to be as nature-based one. Because we cannot consider that an MBS, it is really an MBS without being co-created. So I think it's quite important to involve the community. So I think that there are totally different tools, but the impact of one influencing, if you co-create something, this will deliver impact in the implementation per se, and if you are co-creating an NBS, probably you have more impact in the co-creation process per se because the solution is nature, is good, and the community perceives that it's going to be good. So I think it's totally a feedback or totally different moments, different indicators, probably different approaches also. And the first question is so difficult to answer, Isra. I think that from our projects, something that the Commission is waiting for is saying, which has been the impact of these MBA solutions, for instance, in environmental justice. I am quite sure that this question is going to be answered differently in the different cities, but we need a robust answer to this question. It is just my only reflection because we don't have time, fortunately.
Thank you. Any other one? Do you want to? Yes, Isabel.
To Isra, there I see governance as part of the social impact, definitely. It's not two parts, it's the same thing. How do you, you were mentioning social, what was that?
Cohesion or environmental justice or...
Exactly, so social justice is not only about how the co-creation process improves the impact, the social impact, contributes to the social impact, and here we are seeing it in a different way. But social impact is also about how can the process to be more democraticized, something like that. And so if it is more democratized, it means it is more inclusive, it means that it's more fair, it means that you have a decision that is collaboratively reflected and taken. So I see it as a part, and the separation is always something that we see it like in a second place. We don't need to quantify. We need to evaluate the qualitative. I know, but I don't fully agree with that. I don't fully agree with that. I mean,
let's avoid dialogue.
Let's organize.
I think
qualitative approach are equally valid. I think Santiago, we have to work together.
Just one comment. I think this measure, we need to think where it's coming from. If it's coming from probably from the private sector, so we are not building public policy. So we are trying to do a public policy, but just for one sphere, but not for all the society. So probably the indicators, the measure, it depends where they coming from. So probably we need to rethink if the indicators are coming from the public sector or the mixed sector, probably, in order to, of course, to share ideas and to implement programs, mixed programs. Because it's completely different if the policymakers are coming from the private sector, and it's completely another world if coming from the public sector.
Thank you very much. So do you want to say one word related to social impact, each one of you? Coffee?
Yeah.
Coffee? Okay,
Courage.
okay.
Courage.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I think this was a great roundtable and proves that this model is very informal but very interesting. I think we need to visit Quito. Sorry, but we are so interested.
It's worth it.
We are so interested in the way that you are thinking the city, and so I hope you invite all of us. We take the next flight. Thank you very much. So thank you, Isabel, for bringing all the actors together in this way. So it was great, and we keep the discussions in the next sessions. Thank you to all of you, Santiago, Alessandra, Laura, Igone, Isabel, and we keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.